everybody, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to this series where we are talking about personal development, mindset, and success through the focus of The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Today we are going to be going over chapter 5, which is all about influences in your life. Now, just to summarize The Compound Effect, what it is, it talks about importance of choices and emphasizes one's responsibility to shape one's own life. Overall, it highlights the impact of seemingly insignificant choices when compounded over time. For example, a seemingly insignificant, good, healthy choice compounded over time has an exponentially positive impact on one's life, while a seemingly insignificant bad habit has an exponentially negative impact on one's life. Now, again, we're going to be talking about influences today. Let's dive in. This chapter begins by, again, emphasizing how important it is to be mindful of every single choice that we make in our lives, because every choice we make has a significant impact on our lives, and we have to take responsibility for how our choices are shaping the lives that we are living. Now, this chapter looks at the powerful external factors that influence our choices, behaviors, and habits, because it's not just us. There are external factors that are influencing the choices that we make. And to achieve success in our lives, which is the whole point of this entire series, we have to understand and then take control of those outside influences. That's going to include our input, our associations, and our environment. And we will be going over those three things throughout this whole video. First, we're going to be talking about input. The input that you allow into your mind is going to affect the output of your life. Now, what is input? Input is anything that we are consuming. So think TV, news, social media. Now, negative input is going to result in more of a negative output, while positive input will result in more positive outputs in your life. Our brains are programmed to identify and latch onto negative input faster and more frequently than that positive input. This is because of evolution. It's a survival tactic. Our brains had to be on guard at all times for that negative input in order to protect us so that we can survive. But because we live now in modern society, negative input is no longer a mountain lion that might pounce on you and have you for dinner. No, now negative input is the constant onslaught of sensationalized news articles. So if you fill your mind with negative news and media, that will create a negative worldview that will then influence your expectations and honestly your creative output. Now, that is not to say that there isn't a lot of very valid, very negative input that is currently in our world. However, you can change the type of input that you are consuming while still consuming the truth and reality of our world. To create those positive outcomes, you have to flush your mind full of positive input, such as stories of success and strategies for prosperity, health, joy, happiness. Surround yourself with sources of that positive input. That could look like podcasts or inspirational stories, or maybe a YouTube channel that you like watching because it gives you an inspirational way of achieving a positive lifestyle that is more sustainable and attainable. But in all seriousness, surround yourself with whatever that version of that positive input is for you, and it will help benefit improving your worldview and therefore your creative output as well. Now, like I said, that doesn't mean that you should just ignore harsh realities of a flawed world that we live in, but instead of listening to the incredibly negative stories of it's impossible, the world sucks, surround yourself with that positive input of, yes, this is the reality, but here's how we can take action and change and work within it and improve. Don't stick your head in the sand, but just change that perspective, that input you're getting. Now, in this chapter, Darren also relates your mind to a glass of water, and when you put positive input, you're pouring clean water in, whereas negative input is dirty water. Now, when you get that dirty water in, it's going to cloud the entire glass. And in order to clear out that liquid, you have to pour so much more positive water, the clear water, back into that glass to clean it out and have that positive outlook again. Now, it is entirely impossible to avoid all dirty water. It can't all be crystal clear. That honestly would be sticking your head in the sand. But you can limit it by reducing the amount of social media you consume, refusing to listen to negative talk radio shows, putting down your phone, and limiting the amount of TV that we watch, because commercials prey on our fears. And I don't know about you, but when I end up watching a lot of just daytime TV with commercials, I end up feeling really shitty by the end of it, mostly because the commercials are so fear-mongering. Americans spend around 4.7 hours a day watching TV. That's about 30% of our waking hours. So no wonder that's going to stifle our creative output. So ultimately, just remember to limit the amount of dirty water you're contributing to your glass. And now let's explore other ways that you can creatively add in more positive input throughout your entire day. One great way of doing this is what Hardy likes to call entering drive time you, which basically means take your car ride in the morning to work or whatever your morning transit looks like. For me, it would be a train, and turn that time into the perfect opportunity to consume positive input. Instead of listening to drive time radio or possibly music, it's time to turn your commute into a classroom. This is now when you can listen to inspirational or instructive podcasts or audiobooks, which he argues could provide the equivalent of a PhD if you're doing this every single day. Committing to this, in addition to committing to a reading routine, you can totally set yourself apart from the everyday person. And that is input. Now, let's focus on the second part that I mentioned, associations. These are all of the people that you surround yourself with and interact with on the day-to-day. The people that we spend the most time with and interact with on the day-to-day, or as he likes to call our reference group, has a significant influence over our success or failure in life. I've definitely heard this a lot, talking about how when you have negative people or people who don't believe you in your life, you gotta cut them out. They do not fit into your picture of success in your life. According to Jim Rohn, we become the combined average of the 5 people that we hang around with the most in our lives. So think about the 5 people that you surround yourself with. Are they uplifting you? Would the combined average of them make you a better person? Our associations determine the conversations that we have, the attitudes we adopt, and the habits that we develop. Now, those are all things that we're talking about taking control of in this book. So the influence of our friends has a subtle but very powerful impact on our lives. So to increase the potential for different traits that we desire to have in our lives, we should surround ourselves with people who already have those traits. Now, this next part can maybe sometimes seem a little heartless, but keep in mind that this is for your own well-being, and it is valid to take care of yourself first. It is time to evaluate your associations and divide them into one of 3 categories: disassociations, limited associations, and expanded associations. Disassociation are people that it's really time to cut them out of your lives. Whenever you hang out with them, you end up having conversations that don't make you feel good. They lead to you doing habits and things that ultimately make you feel worse about yourselves. They are people that are dragging you down, and while it may hurt, it may be time to cut them out of your lives. Limited associations, these are people who you may not want to cut out or possibly can't cut out. Maybe it's family members where you're going to limit your associations with them. You're not going to cut them out fully, but you recognize that maybe their influence in your life isn't the best. You're not going to cut them out, but you're going to limit it. Then there's the expanded associations. These are the people that when you look at them, you recognize, wow, you make me a better person by hanging out with you. Those are the people that you are now going to start spending more time with. You are going to expand your association with them. Another association it's time to consider is mentorship, something that is so incredibly powerful for anyone who is trying to grow within their lives, in whatever way that means to you. Every single successful person is willing to hire trainers and coaches to help them improve. It is not a sign of weakness. It is not a sign of, oh, I'm not ready to achieve these great things. No, it's a sign that you are ready to achieve those great things because you are willing to improve yourself through the expertise, knowledge, and guidance of other people. And engaging a mentor doesn't have to be a complicated process. It can be as easy as meeting up for coffees or lunches. And honestly, what's amazing is my experience is that a lot of people are incredibly generous with their time when you ask. But do keep in mind that mentorship is a two-way street. You have to be willing to go out and receive that mentorship as well. The last piece in your associations that Hardy talks about is building a board of advisors. Think of yourself as a company, you're a business, you're trying to do better. You have to build your board of advisors. This is a small group of people that you can talk to weekly, and it consists of individuals who have expertise, creative thinking, or are respected in a field that you are trying to enter into or rise within. By reaching out to them once a week, maybe a couple times a month, you can gain ideas, feedback, and input that will be incredibly beneficial. So seek out those positive people who have achieved the type of success that you want to achieve in your life and start surrounding yourself with them. It reminds me of something that I've heard a few times throughout my life, and I can't remember exactly what the quote is, but effectively it's that don't take advice from someone who you don't want to trade places with. Basically, like, say you're trying to become an actress and your family, while so supportive, is telling you, oh, well, but don't you want to be more secure? Well, let's say your dad works as a lawyer. He's not an actor. He doesn't know what that world looks like. He doesn't know what kind of advice to be giving you because he doesn't have the success that you are looking for. Take his advice if you want to become a lawyer, but don't take his advice if you're trying to become an actor. Take advice from people that you would be willing to trade places with. The final piece is your environment. Your environment can absolutely affect your output. Position yourself in a place, either a city, part of town, or an actual building that inspires you to aspire to greater heights. This is why I love New York City so much. I could go on and on and on and on about how just being present in this city is a constant source of inspiration. It's also constantly dragging and can really, really suck the energy out of you sometimes. But because there is just constantly so much happening, it is such a source of inspiration for me. I am constantly driven to strive for more, and there's constant opportunity as well. Now, that does not mean I'm saying everybody needs to move to New York, even though I do kind of feel that way. Find a place that is inspiring for you. Maybe that looks like Seattle. Maybe that looks like a country on the other side of the world. Maybe that looks like a small town. This does not need to be a big city. It also doesn't have to be the city. Maybe position yourself in a spot where you, from your apartment window, will be looking at a building that you would eventually want to live or work in. Something that brings you that inspiration. Your location absolutely affects your output. It's also why I really focused throughout the 50-day challenge on organizing my apartment, making my apartment look so beautiful and functional, because your environment massively affects your output. Your environment is an input that affects your output, which is also really relevant because I am currently moving next week. As I am recording this video, these are going to be the last few videos recorded in this apartment because I'm going to be moving, and it is going to be another new, incredibly inspiring location that I'm really, really excited to see how it influences my life. And I truly believe it is going to influence it in such a positive way, because not only is it going to be a great location, I'm going to be back in Manhattan now instead of just outside Manhattan. I'm also going to be moving in with my boyfriend, and we both are incredibly positive influences to each other's lives. We encourage each other, we support each other, we are those positive inputs. So moving to a great location, living with a person who's going to be that really positive input and association, as well as living with a person who also cares about keeping our space beautiful and functional. It's really going to have a positive impact. So I'm excited to bring you guys along on that journey too. And that is the chapter about influence. To summarize, the action steps of this chapter are to identify the influence the input of media and information is having on your life. Is it having a negative effect, or is it inspiring you? Take that in, tweak it, make sure that it is leaning more positive than negative. Now it's time to evaluate your current associations. Who is a drag on your life and who is uplifting you? Balance out that scale. Potentially cut out those people who aren't helping you. It's gonna be painful, I know, but it is important. And then increase the amount of time you're spending with people who uplift you and make you and encourage you to be a better person. And then you can also find a mentor, someone who is going to really help you, potentially have them become part of that board of advisors that we're talking about. And also take inventory of your environment and how it is affecting you. That is it for this week's video. Thank you all so much for watching. We have one last chapter in this series, and then I am so excited to be sharing with you all new content starting in May. If you're finding any benefit out of this series, please send it to a friend, encourage them, maybe buy the book and read it together. But if you have not, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and I will see you next week. Most importantly, remember to keep smiling. Bye.